The Fox City SCORE chapter and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences from starting to sustaining growth. Learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you missed anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at biztalkwithscore.com. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
Good morning and happy Saturday to everyone. I'm Rick Sense, listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. And I am really happy to, not that I'm not always happy to talk to Terry Pinch when he's the co-host, but today I would like to rib Terry and say I have an upgrade. And you recognize that laugh for all you listeners, longtime listeners. Pat Lowney is back in the host chair for us this week. So, Pat, welcome back. How you doing?
Thanks, Rick. I'm doing great. And maybe you should be careful about whether it's an upgrade or not until after we get the show over.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. I'm sure Terry's going to weigh in and let me know one way or the other pretty soon. Today we're just really excited. I have an opportunity here, a gentleman that I know here in the Calumet County area. Tim Lamers is the owner of Chilton Trailers, and he'll be joining us this morning. And Tim, I guess I'll start by introducing you to the listeners. You have been with Chilton Trailers now for how long?
Just under 3 years.
Okay. And can you maybe give listeners a little bit of background of the life journey that's led you to the Chilton Trailers world?
Oh, boy. Starts off on a farm, a dairy farm out by Hollandtown, over by Countryside Golf Course. And I was very fortunate to have two very good, solid parents, very involved with my life, three older brothers. And I'm very fortunate that my older brothers also all own their own businesses. And we come from a line of entrepreneurs all together. So it would be part of the Lamers bus line. So that'd be my great uncle Lyle. And I loved, as a little kid, I would always hear stories from my grandpa, who talked so highly about his time with Lyle and just helping him start with the bus line and those kind of things. So, I just really had a chance to understand what a good, solid work ethic is. And we really did a great job with the farm as a family, and had an opportunity at a young age to get involved with the youth apprenticeship program, and then went off and got my associate degree. And so I've spent a lot of time at Fox Valley Technical College, continued on and went out to Stout, spent some time with Polaris Industries, spent some time teaching motorcycle safety. Just a lot of great things happened through that time period. As I graduated from Stout, I continued on and went out to Honda. I was very fortunate. My wife joined me, and we went out to LA and lived the corporate life. So we did that for a handful of years. And I was able to transfer back into the Midwest. And sure enough, I worked with a lot of small business owners, specifically motorcycle and ATV Honda dealers, the power sports side. And because of that, I was just really adamant about finding my own business and getting some things going there. So it's been an interesting path. There's been some great things that have happened. There's been, without a doubt, like anything, setbacks, but most importantly, I've had a lot of great mentors and a lot of people that have really just helped me through the years, kind of deal. And once in a while, it's my parents by just giving me a good, solid kick in the pants of getting my stuff together. And once in a while, it's somebody else just putting their hand on my shoulder and being like, man, this is, you're going to make it through, and those kind of things. So it's been really a strong mixture, but it's always been rooted here in Wisconsin, always very, very involved with this community. I'm very fortunate to consider Mackville my home. So a lot of good things are happening, and Chilton Trailers it's been an interesting journey. We've had almost 3 years now. When we bought the business, we had 6 months of backlog sales, which is just incredible. So we were able to do some good things, and we are still working on some good things, and we're doing this for the long haul. So we'll see where this one goes.
Was that pun intended, the long haul?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I have to ask this question. You're in a family of entrepreneurs. What are your Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners conversations like?
Generally speaking, it's talking about team members helping each other in the business world, whether it be taxes, and not necessarily always complaining about taxes. I was fortunate. My dad, as a kid, programmed me to think very positively that it's an honor to pay taxes because that means you made some money. So it's okay to pay taxes. So we're not necessarily griping about taxes, but we're just talking about how the tax code has changed. We're talking about creating, a team environment. It's a lot like good health and the aspect that you appreciate it when you have it. As soon as it's gone, you're like, oh my goodness. So that's where a really good team. We talk a lot about team members and trying to help each other. As a kid, my dad would always bring hired hands on, and we were always trying to help them in their life journey. So we understand as employers, we as a family, we understand as employers, our responsibility is a lot more than just providing them a paycheck.
Okay, so Chilton Trailers, 3 years now. Can you maybe let listeners know exactly what your product line is, what products you make and provide to the public?
Yeah, so Chilton Trailers has a long history. Part of the reason why I own the business is because I own a Chilton trailer from the 90s. And it's an incredible product. Completely overbuilt over the years, built for the long haul, as I like to say. And it is 100% about the single axle, everyday common trailer, utility trailers, but it's building them to a higher standard than what the industry is. Over the years, the business has gone up and down in different directions. When we did homework on buying Chilton Trailers, I was actually very surprised and quite honestly disappointed by how many people thought the business closed. Because it was literally people looked at the building and saw that it was not taken care of. When we walked through the business, approximately 40% of the light fixtures did not work. So we have over 24,000 square feet, and you can imagine when you have that many light fixtures not working, it's a very dark place. So there was a handful of things that I was just like, oh my goodness, like somebody needs to get involved and start taking care of this business. And we've been reaping the success of it. It's been incredible. It's been an awesome journey. So to answer your question about the product, obviously Chilton Trailers website, we have a full lineup there of the common day, what I call cookie cutter trailers. Although we also do a lot of customizing. The customizing is an area that in the industry we're very well known for. And we're not talking necessarily mom and pop kind of a family trailer being customized. We're talking about corporations and large companies coming to us and saying, hey, we need this specialty trailer. Can you build it? And this is what we're thinking. That's been probably the one area that I've been surprised at the most by how much of that business we have.
Tim, was the business operating when you bought it?
Yes. And I smile and kind of laughed to myself a little bit because it really could not get any smaller. It was 3 employees, and you can imagine when you have 24,000 square feet of a facility, 3 employees, that's not a good sign. That's not a good indication. So we knew that there was a handful of things without COVID and the sure amount of people that went out and bought outdoor power sports products. If that wouldn't have happened, I don't know if the business would still be around.
So when you were looking at buying it and you stepped into it and you had so many issues in front of you that, you talked about with the building and I'm sure other things too, how did you sort out what you could? And I'm sure the employees were the morale was probably pretty low too because they could figure out what was going on and things. How did you sort out your priorities as far as what you tackle first and what you're able to tackle with the money you have?
Yeah. I'm a very people-focused person. So I immediately want to look at the team members and say, okay, what can we do to help them to get their job done more efficiently? Once in a while, it's simple appreciation. We had one gentleman who unfortunately just retired just recently. He's been with the company almost 50 years and an incredible, just full of knowledge and how to build trailers and just an incredible task-orientated person that it was a matter of showing him some appreciation and saying, hey, what can we do to help you? My wife and I strongly believe in the servant leadership culture, and it's about empowering the people that are making things happen and working side by side with them. So the process of me evaluating it was 100% look at the people. A secondary would be, okay, what's going on with the sales line, because the sales are so important. And then the third aspect is cash flow 101 and how we're making all this float the boat and cover the debt and take care of itself. So that was kind of our process, our 1, 2, 3 step. But without the most important person, or most important perspective is the people in the business.
Okay, so I want to take it down just a little bit more on this. And cash flow, you're kind of starting over again, right? And you've got something going, at least there's, you're producing something and things like that. How do you forecast sales and things going forward when you're basically starting from nothing or very close to it to where you want to take it?
Well, Pat, with this particular business, we had 6 months of backlog sales, and that was instrumental. So ultimately, we stepped into the business and really helped the individual team members stay focused on what their task was. And because of that, because they could focus on building trailers and getting that done, the cash flow took care of itself. The forecasting, because we had 6 months of backlog, I had no hesitation at all. It was just like a matter of get the work done. And because of the COVID situation and the amount of consumers that are involved with power sports at the time were pushing the demand cycle or the sales cycle, we just had to keep focusing on providing the product. So it was more about finding the parts and the pieces and keeping our welders welding and keeping final assembly doing final assembly. So the cash flow took care of itself. Although with that being said, anybody that's looking at buying a business, whatever you do, do not strap yourself in a situation that you don't have enough cash on hand. You have to have a cash reserve to be able to have some bumps in the road. We were super concerned about team members leaving at the time, COVID, and just it was 3 years ago. It was really hard to find team members and employees. So now, we were just really concerned about team members leaving. So we wanted to make sure that didn't happen. So that's where we had extra cash reserve in case something did go wrong.
Do you have anything that you would have done differently based on now looking back after COVID and knowing what you got into when you bought the business and where you're at now? Is there anything that you would have changed?
The learning curve, you have to be able to appreciate and you have to be able to take little steps before you start walking, much less running. So using the analogy of taking little steps, compared to what the previous ownership did, compared to what we did for output, in a matter of time, matter of a few months kind of deal, we were almost able to double output by just keeping everybody focused on the task at hand. So do I regret anything? No. Is there some things that I learned through the process? Yes. The trailer industry is experiencing lots of changes. We had numerous vendors that just cut us off. That was very challenging for me because I was like, hey, we're new business owners. And they immediately said, well, we have more than enough demand from other companies. We don't need you. So just go away. And we were just so blown away by that, by key suppliers. We also had key suppliers that said, well, you're new to the industry and we're going to put you on COD. Which was, because we had the extra cash, it wasn't a problem, but it would create a paperwork nightmare. So that was our axle manufacturer that put us on COD. And then they had our credit cards on file. So then they started double dipping on the credit card and also what we were paying in check when the driver would stop. So there are some things that I'm like, yeah, I kind of wish we would have did that differently. But it's all part of the process of learning how to walk, talk, and before you start running. So there isn't necessarily anything. We're very thankful we had enough cash on hand. About a year into it, we absolutely drew the line in the sand and said, no, we're not going to put any more money in. So that's where we needed the business to establish itself and live off of its own cash flow.
All right, I think right now is a great time to take our first break this morning. You're listening to Biz Talk on WHBY, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score. I'm your host, Rick Sense, and with me today is special guest host Pat Lowney. Pat, great to have you back in the host chair today. And we're talking with Tim Lamers from Chilton Trailers in Chilton, Wisconsin. However, before we get back to the conversation, I do want to spend just a moment talking about SCORE. SCORE serves an 8-county area here in the Fox Cities, and we have offices in Appleton, Oshkosh, and Fond du Lac. We have about 45 volunteer mentors, each experts in their field, offering entrepreneurs no cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, human resources, retail, best practices, and many, many others. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session and or to learn more about the Fox City SCORE chapter, please visit our website at score.org/Fox Cities. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, visit our website at score.org/Fox Cities. And to support small business people, Fox City SCORE is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Small business owners need your help, and your experience can make a real difference to their success. Go to score.org/Fox Cities, click on the volunteer button, and fill out the short application, and we'll get back to you to explain more. So thanks again for joining us this morning on Biz Talk. And Pat, I'm going to turn the show over to you.
Okay, thanks, Rick. So, Tim, I want to go back to the conversation we were kind of having before the break, and that is the difference between buying an established business versus a startup. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the startup, I don't really have a lot of firsthand experience doing a startup. I've always looked at buying existing businesses as an aspect. I'm buying cash flow. I am buying what hopefully would be an established brand, established recipes or procedures in the business. Those are the things that I'm buying when I buy an established business. Now, with Chilton Trailers, there's several different magnitudes that they were really, really weak on. So, for example, the building structure was very, very weak. The last 15 years of different business owners that have been in and out of that business, none of them spent any time or energy on the building. So they took as much money as they could out of the business and tried to put it other places. So buying an established business, to me, is all about the cash flow. It's all about the customer base. It's also about the brand name. So doing a startup, to me, that just sounds like a whole bunch of work, but I'm used to buying an existing business. So I have the history and the numbers behind it. I rely very heavily on my accountant, rely very heavily on my lawyer to draft up the proper paperwork to make sure that I have wiggle room if I need wiggle room and those things. So buying an existing business is completely different than doing a startup. Startups sound like a lot of work to me, and it sounds like a very high risk situation compared to finding a business that's already established.
I just going to say, for somebody who's been mentoring businesses for a few years, you're singing my songs. The importance of cash flow, that you recognize that. And that's something a lot of times I have to take time to get people to pay attention to that cash flow is more important than net income. They're kind of the first cousins of each other, but they're related. But cash flow is really critical. And the fact that you talk about having an accountant and an attorney that you rely on is also something critical that I sometimes run into more resistance than I wish I did. So,
well, and Pat, how many accountants do you know do an excellent job looking out the windshield into the future? Accountants love looking at the previous statements and telling you what you did wrong. And it is so challenging for me. I can't run my business using the rearview mirror. I need to run my business looking out of that windshield. So my accountant needs to be extremely critical in looking and helping and guiding me, because I'm tied into everyday operations. I'm, as they use the analogy, staring at one tree after another, whereas the accountant needs to bring me up to that 40,000 foot level and say, hey, where are you going with this, and what do you plan on doing, and how are you managing the cash flow? And that's, to me, the strategic alliance with an accountant that does the right thing and helps you forecasting those things to help you stay on the right path and make sure you don't get into trouble with cash flow specifically.
What would you tell the person who's out there thinking of starting their own business, that thinks, I can go ahead and just handle all that on my own end? What advice would you give that person?
It's impossible to manage it all. It is absolutely impossible to be so involved with the accounting and financial statements and still running the day-to-day operations of the business. For most small-sized businesses, that you have to rely on experts. And I'm very fortunate. I have a very strong secret weapon, which is my wife, Christy, is really very naturally gifted with numbers and does a great job managing some of that stuff. But even that, we rely heavily on our accountant to help us and guide us. I would strongly suggest interviewing, getting the right accountant that matches your personality and someone that's going to stretch you and make you work a little bit and think about things a little bit differently.
All right. I think this is a great time to take our second break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. And just before we cut away to the break, I just want to remind you that we do have the podcast available now as well through Buzzsprout, and we can talk more about that at the end of the program. Thanks again for listening, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score. I'm Rick Sentz, along with co-host Pat Lowney today, and we're interviewing Tim Lamers, from the owner of Chilton Trailers here in Chilton, Wisconsin, and we'll get right back to that. I just wanted to take a moment. I mentioned at the end of the last segment of the podcast, do make sure to check that out as we are loading more and more episodes to that podcast. It'd be great opportunity for you to go back and listen to different episodes that you may have experienced in the past, would like to hear again. Make sure you're checking your podcatchers to find us at Biz Talk with Score, and add us, like us, subscribe, and you can be able to be notified when we update those episodes on a regular basis. So appreciate, again, the fact that you are listening. Without you as listeners, the program wouldn't exist. So thank you for that, and hopefully this will be another opportunity for you to enjoy what is out there for you to learn from, hopefully, as you move forward from Score. Having said all that, Tim, I'd like to come back to the conversation we had kind of touched on a little bit, of danced around a little bit, but maybe I found that your vision statement that you had originally was very interesting. And I'm not going to say what it was. I'm going to let you cover that with the question here, but would you share that with listeners? And then could you walk through the 5 values that you have in place that are behind your vision?
Yeah, the mission and vision, those two statements always get confusing to me at times. So building durable trailers for the long haul with our God-given abilities is what our mission is. It's important for me to honor our Creator and also emphasize that in order to know me, you also have to know who I am. And that's why we do it with our God-given abilities. Our vision statement is connecting the world with innovative, reliable trailers. Rick, you asked about the values, and when we first bought the business, we really tried to pull out what the team wanted for values. And it wasn't a very big team, but we definitely added some team members and definitely tried to find the solid footing of what was established. And just recently, in the last 6 months, I've been doing a lot of soul searching and just trying to get an understanding of what things have created, as I like to say, what things have created my head to kind of explode and my blood pressure to go up a little bit. So we revisited, and I say we loosely, I specifically revisited the value statements approximately 6 months ago. And I really started going after the trust aspect. So one of our values, our very first value, is trust, building mutual success with all partners. We have a dealer network that's in place. We also have a lot of corporate customers. We want success. In order for them to have success, we need to have success. So we need to trust each other and work with each other. So trust is just such a key fundamental of our foundation. Transparency is our second value, acting responsible through forthcoming and honest communication. There we go with that honest aspect again. But the forthcoming is where I continue to challenge myself and my team members and just say, we have to be forthcoming. In the business world, I believe you get paid extra if you can see around corners and see once where things are going, the trends and those kind of things, much less where your customer or your partner is potentially going to have a problem. You need to be forthcoming about that and communicate that stuff. So that's the transparency. The third value is the improvement, and that's continuing enhancing our team and our offerings. We do get involved with some custom build trailers. Well, we take our lead fabricators and work with the customer directly. Now, most business owners would say, oh my goodness, if they're not welding and producing work, that's a problem. Well, no, we're adding value to our partners, to our customers, by getting those team members involved on the early side to have those conversations, make sure that things are doable, that we're not just proving something out on a piece of paper, and then when it comes to actually fabricating it, it's not possible. So that's the enhancing our team and our offerings. The achievement is a lot about where the future of Chilton Trailers is going to go, and we're striving for new levels of success. From my understanding, back in the 90s, Chilton Trailers used to employ approximately 30 people. I just can't fathom that idea of how employing so many people and going down to a small group of 3 team members. I can't understand that, because we have to strive for new levels of success. And then the fifth one of our values is our customer focus. We just really want to be honoring and serving our partners, as in our dealers, our corporate customers. We want that to be an honoring aspect of it. So that's why the majority of the people that call into Chilton Trailers will have a live person, and actually person answering the phone. We don't guarantee that, but about 90% of the time we get to the phone call before they get to voicemail and those things. So we're just absolutely trying our darndest to be customer focused on making sure our customers are taken care of and making sure our customers can communicate with us, and honoring them by saying thank you. They're such an important part of the business. I joke around with people once in a while and say business would be so much easier if we don't have customers, but you know what? The business goes away then. So those are the 5 values at Chilton Trailers that we, as an overall team, as a group, are really getting after and really trying to hold each other accountable on.
Your staff, when you talk about these, how do these play in are they in the forefront of their mind when they talk to you about decisions, or is this something that people are reminded of on a daily basis? How would you describe that?
I would describe that as a work in progress. It's something I need my team members to hold me accountable on at times, because there's at times the demands of customers is absolutely incredible. 6 months of the year in the trailer business is just gangbusters, and everybody wants it done yesterday. So there's times where the team members have to remind me of, Tim, slow down. and take care of the customer, one customer at a time, and this will pan out and those kind of things. So we're working on signage. We're working on incorporating it more into our daily activities. I hope that someday in the near future, my team members will say, Tim, we got it. And it's all what I have to do is give more friendly reminders, and they'll continue to emphasize that they have it. I hope we can get there, but right now we're still working on it and really just trying to incorporate it in everyday actions and every day holding each other accountable.
You're describing a very healthy culture if you're having your staff remind you of these things. What kind of things do you guys do to build that culture at Chilton Trailers?
For me, it's about being available. As an owner, I get pulled in so many different directions. So there's times where I have to slow down and just simply have lunch with the team. It's just such a simple gesture. It's just a simple thing to be like, you know what, we're all human. Let's, break some bread and enjoy some time together. We try, and again, Chilton Trailers is a little bit different compared to some other journeys that I've had in the past. The team members are much more established, much more routines. Compared to the past, we would do a lot more outings with the team members, go off to fun places, exciting places. We're still working on that with the Chilton Trailer team. Whether it be off shooting skeet, whether it be out running go-karts, it's just something to get yourself out of that work environment. We're trying, with Chilton Trailers to get that going more. But a lot of our team members have a lot of responsibilities outside of work, that they don't necessarily put a high value at that.
So, in the 3 years that you've been with Chilton Trailers and working on these values and things, can you say that you've seen success with the business, the culture of the business?
Yes. We do a monthly, team members, all of our team members come together once a month, and we do a question and answer, a survey kind of, if you will, of the team members. And I think there's more gelling with each other than there ever has been. Are we all rowing the same direction? Yeah, I think we're doing a pretty good job of being in the boat and holding each other up and locking arms, and doing a great thing. Just recently we had, the gentleman that I referred to before that's been with the company almost 50 years. He came in and expressed to us that he, was diagnosed with cancer, and it's been heavy on our hearts. The last 6 weeks, it's been really heavy, because he has been such an instrumental person in this business, and he's so quiet and reserved. He doesn't want anything from other people. So he's, to me, a real true definition of a servant leader. He's done so many things, but he doesn't want anybody to do anything for him. So the team is stronger than it ever has been, at least from my experiences, from the last 3 years being with the team. Do we have areas to improve upon? Yeah. Do I appreciate, I need to appreciate them more often. Yesterday at our team lunch, I said thank you and stuff, but I think it goes a lot more to that, and sending letters and just showing appreciation to each one of the team members for showing up every day.
Why is that commitment to creating the value through your team's culture, and building that culture up with such a specific focus so important to you, Tim?
There's no way I could do this by myself. It's just impossible. So like my parents did on the dairy farm way back when, as my kids would say, when the dinosaurs walked the ground and stuff like that. But a handful of years ago, when I was on the dairy farm with my parents, it was a family environment. You helped each other. You worked with each other. You knew individually that you were going to go through some good things and bad things, but you helped each other. And you were there for each other. So that's just part of who I am. Is we as business owners, we have to understand we're in this for a lot more than just a so-called P&L. If that's truly our calling in life, is just to create more money, you got to check your values. There's a lot more things to life than just creating that dollar. And if you are just trying to create a dollar, the trailer industry is not a great place to go. So the trailer industry is definitely more about servant leadership. The trailer industry, the trailer manufacturing aspect is a lot more about bringing the team members together and helping each other in this process in what we call life here on Earth.
So if you were going to talk to somebody that's looking to start their own business, what advice would you give them based on your experiences to date?
Wow. I mentioned before about the accountant. I don't know what the average accountant gets for an hourly wage, and I don't know what your lawyer would necessarily get for an hourly wage either. But when you pay them lots and lots of money and to get their professional advice, and they tell you not to do it, and you still feel that strongly in your heart that that's your calling, you just do it. So you have to feel that it's truly your calling in life is business ownership. You have to feel that it's the only way. My wife and I, we've been very fortunate to be employees. We're very fortunate to have multiple lines of income, if you will, from duplexes and rentals and stuff. But it's all about the aspect of what's your calling. Going back to our mission statement about our God-given abilities, back in 6th grade when I would bring candy bars to school and sell them, man, it was so empowering. It was just a fun process. The supply and demand chain, and if the teacher would catch me selling candy bars, they would put them up on the desk and give me great advertisement that I immediately knew the next 2 days I had to bring twice as many candy bars and I would sell out at the same time. It was just incredible how that supply and demand process happened. So I can honestly say, and for sure by 7th grade, I had a really good understanding that I was going to be my own business owner just because I can't see life any other way. And I've tried to be an employee. I've tried, but it's just not cut out for me for who I am.
How do you find, what do you do that helps you take the time to think about things that like this, that is important to you versus, everybody I talk to feels like they're running 125% of their time and their ability and things. And it seems like thinking is one of those things that doesn't get much effort put in because I'm so busy doing everything else. And it sounds like you're doing more of that. How do you do that?
Maybe the best word would be discipline. And I'm not saying I'm a disciplined individual, but I am saying that you need to have quiet time. This day and age, with the amount of things every person has going on, you have to find your quiet time. And right now, my current situation, I do have some quiet time, even though I might be driving from Chilton to Appleton or different things. But I find that quiet time, whether it be early Saturday morning, once in a while Sunday mornings, you have to get after that quiet time and not have interference, cell phones, all the other stuff that's going on in life, and just kind of reflect and take time. I was fortunate enough a handful of years ago, approximately 6-7 years ago, I sold off 2 businesses and I went into my halftime. And a great gal from Whitfley that was very involved with my previous business transaction, when I used the terminology halftime, she said, "Oh my goodness, did you ever read the book?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, there's a book called Halftime." Well, Bob, if I remember correctly, Bob Buford wrote this book called Halftime, which was almost identical to the situation that I was in. And he came out of the so-called locker room or his halftime by being a different person and just appreciating things differently. So that aspect of taking that time and doing kind of an inventory check of your life, I was fortunate to do that a handful of years ago. And that's part of the reason I am who I am today, is because I was able to take that time and just reflect and understand and appreciate. There's been so many great mentors over the years, so many great people involved. I also spend a fair amount of time and energy with the C12 group, which is the Christian business owner group that we come together once a month and work on helping each other. There's been some tough times in the last 3 years with Chilton Trailers that I've been pretty hard on myself. And I haven't appreciated all the positive things. So the peer group of helping other business owners is very important to me because they've helped me. I've also helped them. So it's about showing up every day and just trying your very best and, just understanding and appreciating each other's viewpoints.
I think that's a great time to take our last break. You've been listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY Radio. I'm Rick Sentz, along with special guest host this week, Pat Lowney. Before we continue the program, I'd like to thank the sponsors and donors who bring Biz Talk with Score to you each weekend. We couldn't present Biz Talk without their generous support. Thank you to Haling & Associates. Haling & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan for taxes, thereby helping you minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Haling & Associates, personal connection, positive results. A special thank you to the Business News for promoting our program in the bi-weekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. If you aren't already subscribing to Business News, you should. The paper is delivered bi-weekly and contains relevant and useful information about the business community in Northeast Wisconsin. We would also like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation in support of Biz Talk and Fox City Score. Now back to the show. Tim, how can people get in touch with you and learn more about Chilton Trailers?
Yeah, Chilton Trailers has a pretty good website out there. So, of course, chiltontrailers.com. Of course, that'll have our telephone number and our dealer network that's out there. We're very fortunate to have a good dealer network, although our dealer network doesn't necessarily specialize in selling trailers. So what's one of the unusual things about being a trailer manufacturer is our dealer network usually specializes in selling other stuff, and our trailer is just something that happens to also be there. So we've worked with a lot of customers through the distribution channel, through the dealerships to get them into the product. They can reach us at our telephone number of 920-849-2221. Again, that's 849-2221.
So, Tim, I've got a question as we wrap up here. You mentioned earlier that you grew up on a dairy farm, and I'm curious, how do you feel that background of growing up on and working on a family dairy farm helped you as you moved on through your career?
Yeah, when I was at corporate Honda, working specifically in LA, it was really my first time. So I was probably in my late 20s or so that I really started understanding of how different I was hardwired. Different from the aspect of task motivated. I don't necessarily do the best job with feelings and that kind of discussions at all, much less understanding what someone else might be feeling with empathy and those things. Because it was all about what are you getting done. So on the dairy farm for us, for my family and those things, you had to get the work done. You had to get the chores done. The cows had to be milked. And it was my dad was excellent with discipline on making sure the cows got milked at the certain times and that things moved along, as a task focus. No place in that process did my dad ever really ask about how we felt about something. It was always task focused. So that's kind of one of the things that really started standing out to me later on in life is when other people pointed that out, the drive, the discipline, the aspect of staying focused. I like to use the analogy of keeping your eye on the ball, because a lot of people understand the sports metaphors. So to me, it's about moving that stuff forward. And I have a really hard time understanding how other people are not wired that way, but I do appreciate it. So it's just it's a different thing that's been pointed out to me that I am very task focused and a very strong sense of drive of let's get things done. And God's given us these resources in life and we need to move things forward. So it doesn't mean we have to upset anybody or make enemies by no means, but we have to do it in a good, solid, fashionable, taking care of the things that have been entrusted to us.
We're going to wrap up the show there for today. Tim, could you give listeners one more plug on the web address and the phone number, so if they want to get a hold of you, they can reach out?
Sure thing. ChiltonTrailers.com. Of course, the telephone number is also out there, which is 920-849-2221. Keep in mind, we are manufacturers, so we focus on manufacturing. So we do run manufacturing hours. So that means from 6 a.m. until 2:30, we are cranking on the pedals, producing more trailers. We're always there to help, but we don't necessarily do the best job answering the phone after in the late afternoons and the evenings.
All right. And you've been listening to Biz Talk with Score. Pat, I got to just say it's been fun co-hosting with you again. I look forward to the next time we get to do that. But, of course, I miss Terry, and I'm really looking forward to him being back in the chair next week. Oftentimes when we do our show, we never really go and thank people behind the scenes. I'd just like to mention a gentleman that has been producing our show for some time now. His name's Zach Morris. Zach's our producer, and I just want to thank Zach for all the work that he does in helping put together Biz Talk with Score as well. So thank you, Zach. You've been listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and look forward to chatting with you again. Thanks for listening.